learned about this brother is that he just won't take no for an answer. I said no to him so many times. No, okay, I'll call me in next week. And so finally, I saw a little break in my schedule, and I was able to be here. Believe me, going to a PTA meeting brought back some old memories. I don't know when I've been to a PTA meeting. But I'm actually looking forward to not only just chatting with you folks, but to hear from you. And I'll tell you, my cousin, this is from my bloodline here. Yeah, Wesley, how you doing? He's lovely, man. We go way back in, not only in blood, but he's a man, and my grandma was a man. And we country boys. A place called Whaleyville, Virginia. That's where our bloodline comes. Whaleyville. Way deep in the South, Virginia. Deep, I mean way deep. So deep, I went back a couple months ago and I freed 2 slaves. Deep in the South. Matter of fact, our great-grandfather, he actually was a sharecropper who worked the same land that I think his father was a slave owner. That's how far back we go. And as he knows, there were, 11 brothers and sisters. My grandma was one. Of course, Sugarfoot, he got killed in the 3 black cats, decapitated, but we won't go into that. And Uncle Rufus was in prison for killing a man, kicked him to death. But so we are ornery people. Poor. We were so poor back in the day, but we couldn't afford but 2 letters. We were just P.O. I say that to say that we never give ourselves credit for surviving. You know? I think about where we come from back there in the peanut land, and the fact that I, in the immediate family of my family, as he was, I'm the first high school graduate, and between my immediate family, and certainly the first graduate of college. My father dropped out, I think, in about the 7th or 8th grade to work. My grandma dropped out of elementary school to work in the fields and had my father when she was 14. And my mother dropped out in the 9th grade. So the fact that we are college educated and trying to make something of our lives says a lot. You can't count people out, not even yourselves. I say it to say, because I mean, listen to a lot of that. How come we this, how come we don't that? And as he mentioned, we just celebrated. I take that word back. I want to use that because it comes to mind immediately when you think of a festive event. But we didn't celebrate the 400th anniversary of the founding of America. We commemorated it. And the reason why we call it a commemoration, because other than the English who came over here, the Native Americans who were here when they got here don't call it a celebration. And then 12 years later, when about 20 of us came over, and indentured servants, we certainly don't call it a celebration. It's a commemoration. But it was an incredible event because it was the first time in 400 years that a commemoration was diverse. They had never had Native Americans and African Americans together to commemorate and be a part of this. And my wife was involved in Federal Commission. That's why I couldn't help him organize this demonstration, because it kind of looked kind of funny. My wife would have kicked my butt. But I said it to say that you are part of something that you're not even aware of. This thing with Don Imus, which, by the way, I didn't need Don Imus to tell me not to call a woman a hoe. You know, as I said, we come from a very volatile family. My grandma, boy, she could backhand you and knock the black off you. I was raised by single parent. As I say, I was raised by women, around women. As I joke and say, I was raised by wolves. So I'm used to strong, powerful women, and I have a tremendous respect for women. I adore women. I love them to death. And so it has pained me for some time, and I've been speaking up against how they're portrayed in the media by the dominant culture, and certainly how they're portrayed by now us. So I didn't need Don Imus. And actually, Don Imus is late. It's become a catalyst, but actually, the tipping point, if you ever read the book, when things become a phenomenon, has already happened. This proves it. The reason why I say that is because 2 weeks ago I was in Columbia, South Carolina, at a function called the New Black Male. I was glad to see some women there, because I was like, if I go there ain't no women there, I ain't gonna talk. But I don't want no bunch of men getting there, they're gonna settle the agenda, ain't no woman in the room. But sooner or later we're gonna have to explain it to them, we're gonna have trouble. But before that I was at Drexel University, same topic. This is all before Dobbs. I leave in 4 days to go to Africa. And I was invited over by UNESCO to come and discuss how Africa, there are going to be several heads from several countries there, and the talk is called the Prior in Cape Verde, it's called the Prior Decision. And our job is going to be for 3 days in Africa to figure out how we can use propaganda, the media, as a tool to give Africa a visual and propaganda rebirth. And whatever we decide is going to be voted on in Ethiopia and Addis Ababa sometime this fall. And it's going to become sort of a curriculum for these countries to use the media. And the reason they chose me is because I've been going to Africa quite a bit doing documentaries. And I just did one on Cape Verde, fascinating place. I won't bore you with all the details, but so we got Africa. We got countries in America talking about the same thing that you are now talking about tonight. How are we going to get back our culture? How are we going to revitalize our communities from a cultural point of view? Interesting thing I read in the paper. I know you're aware, I was talking to someone last night about it. You heard about the problem with the bees, right? If you haven't heard about it, when we pay $25 for an apple next year, bees are disappearing all over America, disappearing. Scientists trying to figure out what the heck's going on have come up with a name for this phenomenon. It's called colony collapse disorder, CCD. In the case of colony collapse disorder, CCD, flourishing beehives are suddenly deserted, leaving only a few worker bees around. And of course, the queen bee, which is the only one in the hive that can reproduce. And she is left with a few workers and just a few reserves of food stuff. So consequently, guess what? The hive dies. Any parallels you hear in this? Oh, yeah. The queen bee, deserted, left with no security, no protection. A few workers straggling, trying to keep up. Not enough. Where are the men? The men are gone. They've deserted the hive. Well, I think that we are suffering from CCD, cultural collapse disorder. And I think that it is imperative that we, as a community, solve this issue. I've been the last 4 decades now involved in the most powerful force ever created by man, the media, entertainment, television, radio, iPod, you name it, it's all the same thing. You're looking for a weapon of mass destruction, you go no further than the media, but it's used in power. There's a word that we've heard as we grew up in the educational system in this country, and it always has a negative connotation. It's called propaganda. Hitler used it as well as anyone. It's a word that has been not used often, but it is a powerful word because propaganda is the thing that is used to alter the behavior of a society. And when propaganda is misused in a sense of to attack that society, it will change not only the behavior, but it will cause that group or that society to become self-destructive. Cultural collapse disorder. Before we can, the reason I come to these things now is because I'm tired of everybody fighting. I'm tired of, what's his name, Dyson fighting Cosby. I'm tired of all this fighting. I'm tired of us going after each other. We have to say enough is enough. We have to say it to the rappers. We have to be elders, those who are over 40, as I am, way over 40. I'm an elder now. And I got to stop trying to be a kid. I got to pull away my childish thing. I have to be an elder. We have to tell these young people that we have failed them as elders. We have. And they are failing us as this new generation take over. So we both fail each other. So let's just get by that, calling each other names and saying, don't say this, you can't say that, don't tell me what to say. That's not going to get us anywhere. Cultural collapse disorder. I'm actually, because I'm in the media and because I believe it, because this is a democracy, I'm against censorship. I think we're going the wrong way, or we're going to stand with by telling someone you can't say nigga, you can't say bitch, you can't say hoe. It's like, I was talking to someone the other day that was saying that their little son almost drowned in their pool. And they said he jumped in and she couldn't swim, and somehow she saved this kid, and she got this kid out, and she was breathing hard. She said, when she told the story, she teared up. She said, oh, she says, you know what I did? I built a fence around the pool. I said, why did you teach the kid to swim? And why don't you learn? Anybody with a pool should know how to swim. Don't get a pool. If you live near a lake, learn how to swim. If you live on the East Coast or the West Coast near water, if you don't know how to swim, then you're foolish. Cultural collapse disorder. You're hurting your tribe. You're hurting your family. Teach them to swim if you got a pool. Now, people drown who can swim, but the odds are you've given that person something that they can use to protect themselves. Protect themselves. We are not protecting our community. We are not protecting our women. I was watching Life on the Serengeti the other night. I love like these animal channels and National Geographic channels. It's either that or Flavor Flav. I can't take Flavor Flav. Don't believe the hype, Flavor. Talking about burn Hollywood, burn Flavor Flav, burn. But I was watching this thing on Pride of Lines, and they were talking about these lines. And they had, of course, these female lines. And the guy was saying, and the female line is the one in the troop. She goes out, she hunts, she takes care of the pride. She's an alpha female who leads the other females, and they know she's the alpha female. She grabs the meat, she eats, and the children eat, and the king of the beasts is laying back, he goes and eats. His job is to protect the pride. That's all he has to do, protect the pride. He gets fed, and his way with all the lions he wants. His job is to protect the pride. Now, if they got that figured out in the animal kingdom, what the hell happened to us? We're doing just the opposite. It bothers me. Enough is enough. We have to draw a line. I don't say to anyone, don't say a word. What you have to do is teach that person to demand from that person responsibility for himself. I mean, he's got to have a mother, unless he was cloned. So when someone uses that term, and I go after Mike, we talk, I don't necessarily, it's like, again, we're late. We're looking at Don Imus. What about Dolores Tucker? She said it years ago. This is wrong. You're destroying my community with this garbage. And what do? We chastised him. One of the record labels, one of the big rappers, I'm not calling names, I'm not here to blank face blame, but they went after her. They said she was trying to get her own record label. She was doing this. And none of us in the community rallied behind her. So this is not new. All of a sudden, Don Imus, I don't care about Don Imus. I care about the fact that young people are not getting the counseling and not getting the confrontational, positive confrontational relationships with elders. Elders, we got to step up. We got to step up. Young people, we cross the line. Not only